The book that I read was The Challenge to Care in School by Noddings. In talking about this, I'm gonna tell you about who Noddings is. I'm gonna tell you about her different themes of care, how we care in schools, and not just how we care, but how we can apply it to our classes. So first off, Noddings describes herself as a feminist, an educationalist, and a philosopher. She's been married for 60 years now, and she has 10 children, so I would say she knows a little bit about caring. She earned her bachelor's degree at Montclair State College. She received a master's degree in mathematics at Rutgers University, and she got her doctorate in educational psychology at Stanford. She spent 15 years in public schools as a teacher, an administrator, and a curriculum developer. So she's worked in all aspects of public school. She dealt mostly in math, but she tried to reach out to other subjects as well to kind of share her ideas. The book that I read, she originally wrote in 1992, but she kind of came up with a second edition, which is this one, because she felt like, it's been so many years, 20 years since then. Our world has changed, which she actually rewrote the book in 2005, so maybe 13, 15 years, somewhere in there. But she advocated even more strongly for her ideas in 2005 than she did in 1992 because the changes weren't happening and she saw a need for it to happen. So as we go in this, you're going to see her passions are very evident. So the first thing I want to talk about, I don't have a slide for it, but I just kind of want to get a little information out there before I do it all. In opening up, she does not like our general curriculum based on liberal arts. She says that we put too much emphasis on academic achievement and on defining our students by their test scores. She says that schools should be a place for students to enjoy coming, somewhere they can thrive in. And to do this, we have to care for them. That's what this whole book is about. The buzzword of this book is care. If you don't care, you're not going to reach your students. And a lot of times, we as teachers exercise this virtue of caring by doing what we think is best for our students. But what we think is best is not always what actually is best. She argues against a guy whose name is Mortimer Adler, who was kind of famous in the 80s. And researching him, I found out that he strongly advocates going back to the 3 R's of education: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And in his Prt1 proposal, he quotes and says, "The best education for the best is the best education for all." And Noddings just completely tears this apart, because who are we to say what is best? Because we all in here have different majors, content areas. So am I to say that social studies is the best over kinesiology or mathematics or English? I can't say that my subject is the best, and so we have to create a diversity. And she argues also that liberal education is a set of disciplines for general education, not for specific occupations or professions. But in talking about this, equal doesn't have to be identical. Equal can be, I'm given the equal amount of hard work in social studies as I'm given the equal amount of hard work in mathematics. It doesn't have to be the same step-by-step plan. It can be different. So what does she want to see happen in our schools? She wants to see us learn to care. But when we meet 150 to 200 students in a year, how do we build a relationship with each of those students and then the next year turn around and get a brand new set and learn to care for them as well? Many argue that we don't have time for this in our schools. We already have to feed our kids. We already have to bus our kids. We already have to pursue them, protect them in our schools. We don't have time for general educational courses. How are we going to have time to care? Well, it reminds me, she talks about how a lot of times we feed students in our school, but we feed them because hungry children don't learn, not because we're compassionate, loving people who actually want to feed hungry children. Some of these kids, you don't know where they come from. You could be the only smile they see that day. You could be the only meal they get that day. And it reminds me of a daycare teacher I worked with once who had a lot of experience working in New York public schools. And she worked with some of the poorest kids you'll ever meet. Some of these kids lived on the streets. And she spent part of her day just giving an apple to a growling stomach, or giving a kid a 30-minute nap who was too afraid to sleep at night because he was on the streets. And that's the kind of caring that Noddings wants to see us do, because it goes beyond just meeting a physical need so they learn. It's actually making them better people, and that's what Noddings wants to see us to do. So, to start with this, Noddings wants us to get away with college preparatory classes. She doesn't like the idea of college preparatory, because what about our students who are not going to college? We seem to believe that there are no non-college bound students. Everybody has to go to college, but that's not true. And so what are we saying to them? That they're not important? And according to the National Center for Education Statistics, a lot of the times when we say these non-college bound students are not important, they drop out. And while the percent of dropouts in the U.S. has significantly declined, it's still a worry. In 2010, between the ages of 16 and 24, in America, the total was 7.4% of our students were dropping out. 15.1% of them were Hispanic and 8% were black. Because what are we saying to these students? And in Mississippi, the total average rate of dropouts is 7.4%. That's the same as the national average just in Mississippi alone. 7.4% of our kids in Mississippi are dropping out. And of those, 9.3% of them are black. So what are we saying to them? We have to find, part of Noddings' theme of caring is finding out what interests them. Because just because they're not going to college doesn't mean they don't have goals in life. We still need people who are carpenters. We still need people who are daycare workers. We still need people who are plumbers. So we have to give them courses that help them to learn these things in school instead of just dropping out. Because if we do that, then we're building up their character and we're showing them that, hey, what you like and what you want is just as important as those of us who are going to college, because we still need people like you.
Because right now the idea is if you don't go to college, then you're not going to.
Exactly. We assume that they're just worthless, that they don't matter. And that's what now Noddings is encouraging us to get away from. So how do we do this? She's got 3 main themes. The first one of these is that we need to work around themes of moral education in our classrooms. Moral education. And there's 4 ways we do this. We model it, we have dialogue, we have them practice it, and we give them confirmation. So to model it, they learn how to care for others by seeing how we care for them. So their experience in us caring for them teaches them how to care for others. So that's why we have to show them and teach them how to care. Dialogue is incredibly important with these students. It is an open-ended conversation. You should never go into a dialogue with a student knowing how the conversation is going to end. Because if you know how it's going to end, then you're not really open to their ideas. You have to listen to them and create an understanding with them to build and maintain this relationship of caring. Practicing would have them, our high school or middle school students, maybe help out tutoring younger students. Or even just spending time with them, playing some sports, playing some games, whatever it is, just to have them practice, or even go out into the community and volunteer or help around the school. Whatever it is, we have to provide them opportunities for this skill to grow, for them to learn how to use it. And then confirmation, our students need to know they're doing a good job. It makes you feel good when someone says, hey, I'm proud of you. You did a great job today. I loved the way you worked with so-and-so. You really helped them out. That was good of you. You have to affirm them to make them continue on this practice of care, and they're not going to do it. The next way that we show caring is through our forms of continuity. The four forms of continuity are continuity of purpose, continuity of place, continuity of people, and continuity of curriculum. To break it down for you, continuity of purpose means that we give them a reason to learn. It's not busy work. There's a reason I'm here, and there's a reason I'm learning this. And she suggests that we divide, Nell Noddings suggests we divide our classroom days in 2. Half of them will revolve around themes of care, which we're going to talk about next, and half of them on our conventional subjects. And this gives learning more meaning to them, because if it's something they're interested in, they're going to want to learn it more. And it also, she suggests bringing in people from your community, like at lunchtime, because at lunchtime we largely ignore our students. So it's like, I need a break from these kids, I'm going to sit at the teacher table, I'm not going to sit with you, I'm done. So she suggests that we bring in people from our community to come and talk to these kids informally at lunch. Just sit at the table and have lunch with them. It can be people in careers that they're interested in. It can be police officers, it can be mechanics, it can be political figures, it can be any range of anything they're interested in. Just having community visitors come and sit and talk to these students at lunch, just to build upon their interests. Continuity of place, I think this one is a little bit easy for us. It's staying in the same building for 2 to 3 years, which a lot of us do. Like, we spend kindergarten through 5th grade in one building. We spend 6 through 8 in a building, 9 through 12. It gives us, the point of that is to give us a sense of belonging. Because if we own a building, we care about it more. Continuity of people, this one is something I really like. It's staying with a teacher for 3 or more years. It is by mutual consent only. No student should have to be with a teacher they don't like. But it means that I would get a group of kids their freshman year and move up with them every year and teach them the next content that they have to learn every year. Doing that gives you a chance to learn more about your students, learn more about what interests them, and learn how to help them better. Because if we can help them better, then they're going to learn more. And also, Noddings pointed out that when we know our students well, we make better grief counselors in times of crisis, because we know our students and how to reach them. And it's true, because when I was in high school, I think it was my junior year, we had 3 suicides within 9 weeks of each other. It was an awful time in our school. And there was about a week that we went from class to class, yes, but attendance was kind of iffy. You could go to the library and sit with grief counselors, or you could go to your favorite, like your teacher's classroom, the one that you've connected with and feel safe with, and that teacher that can offer you comfort because they knew you on a personal level. And I think that that teacher you know well and that cares about you is much better than a grief counselor with a script, because you don't know them and they don't know you. So your teachers, us as teachers, when we know our students, when things like this happen, we can reach out to our students and tell them, you know, it's going to be okay, we're going to get through this, it's going to get better. And so I feel like continuity of people, us staying with, even if it means we have to learn new stuff every year to keep doing this, it helps. It helps our students and it helps us to get their interests. And continuity of curriculum, students choose, it means that students just choose their courses. They choose not only their courses, but they get to choose their content. They come into your classroom and you say, what do you want to learn in my social studies classroom? What do you want to learn in my mathematics classroom? How do you want to learn it? Do you want to write papers? Do you want to do projects? Do you want to watch videos? Do you want to go to a museum? How do you want to learn it? It's letting them choose and not just you standing up there talking to them every day and just telling them what they have to do. Because when they have freedom to choose, they're more likely to do it. And then lastly is Noddings' themes of care. This to her is the biggest part of this book. These themes of care, how we learn to care. The first one is care for oneself, caring for intimate others and global others, care for plants, animals, and the environment, care for the human-made world, and care of ideas. When we're talking about care for oneself, we're talking about physical and mental. And we're not just talking about PE and health. That's very generalized nowadays. Teenagers in high school, they worry, and even middle school, especially in middle school, they worry about their complexion, their stature, their weight. They worry about their body types and the changes they're going through. And we don't really talk about that in health classes. We talk about the basics of sex and drugs, which is important, but we need to go deeper with them. And she also kind of wants us to reevaluate our PE classes. Because nowadays when you go into PE, you go play kickball while your coach watches you. And she doesn't want us to do that anymore. Because if you look at Mississippi, we have one of the highest obesity rates in America. And what Noddings suggests is that we, instead of playing these games, we teach our children how to exercise. We teach them how to use equipment. We teach them how to run. Because when we do these things, we're setting them up in the future to continue these habits, to care for themselves. And then care for intimate others and global others. Intimate others means your family, your friends, but also your community. It means volunteering. It means working with those younger children and even working with older generations to glean from their wisdom, to learn from them. It just means to reach out and help your neighbor when they're in times of need. Global others is tricky because while she doesn't want you to just give your money away to the first charity that comes along. Because so many of these charities, you don't know where your money is going. She says that you should research, find out where your money is going, what it's doing. Make sure it's not lining some politician's pocket, because in this world that happens a lot today. She says just to look it up, to make sure that before you give, you're giving to the right people. Care for plants, animals, and the environment.